What is going on, everybody? Justin here with Miles Over Matter, and today I will be reviewing the anticipated Nike Alphafly 3, which I was lucky enough to get my hands on from a local running store the day that they dropped, because trying to get them online was next to impossible, and I'm sure many of you know that. So shout out Runner's Edge, Farmingdale, Long Island, New York. You guys hooked it up, and I will be breaking this shoe down from my perspective. I will be getting into the good, the bad, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and this is a great shoe. I'll just say that right off the bat. But how good is the shoe? Is this going to be your next marathon trainer, my next marathon trainer, or are there better super shoes out there? So I'm gonna get into everything, and we're gonna try and figure this one out, because this was a mixed bag of feelings. So my initial run in the Alphaflys was a very interesting run. If you've never worn the Alphaflys, there's nothing really like them. And I've only worn the ones prior to this and probably had a total of like 20 to 40 miles, somewhere in there, before I've had my issues and had to sell them. Now, before I get into my critique of the Atom Knit 3.0, which is what they use for the upper here, I don't want you guys to think that I hate it or that it's a bad upper, because it's a really good upper. It just may not be my total favorite, but that's also because it just may not work entirely well with my foot shape. So I personally felt through my runs on these, which I have about like 26 miles on them over the course of 3 runs, I felt that where in the past, at least in the Alphafly 1, it catered towards a wider foot. For me, I love that. I have more Hobbit style feet for my Hobbit runners out there. But for this, it definitely got a little more narrow. And I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing. It's definitely getting more towards like that racing style fit, a more slimmer, snugger fit. But for me, someone with wider feet, the issue I had in the ones is in my right foot, which is a little more than half a size smaller than my left foot. And I cater my running shoes towards my left foot, towards that true 9.5. The right foot, I had a very hard time getting a proper lockdown, and it's kind of like the issue I have with my Adidas Pro 3, where it just feels like too sloppy in the toe box area, and I can't really get a lockdown in my foot. So on the right shoe, I had that issue big time, and it really affected my runs. Whereas in these, I don't have that issue, but now the minor issue that I'm having is they are a little on the snugger side. And on my first run that I ran in these, I ran in 20 degrees with thicker socks, and it was way too snug for me. Even as I got towards mile like 6 or 7, where this started to loosen up a little bit, the Atom Knit, I still felt like it was very snug on my foot. And even with some socks that aren't as thick, I still kind of feel that. And mostly around like this area, the ball of my big toe is where I wish it was just a little bit wider, just to give my foot a little more room to do what it needs to do for the toes to splay out a bit. The other issue I have with this shoe, and it's not a huge issue, but it's definitely worth pointing out, is halfway into the run, my first run, my second run, when the shoe starts to loosen up a bit and you go for that kind of second lockdown, if I tighten too tight around the ankle, I instantly, within my run, feel this pressure on the lateral side at the base of my tibia and fibia that's so noticeable and so painful. It's nothing that can't be fixed with loosening up the laces a bit, but it doesn't go away until I do that, and it's a little annoying. But I don't think there's a worse shoe to try and get a proper lockdown than the Adidas Pro 3. So if that's the minor inconvenience that I got to deal with this shoe, I'll take it. So the last thing I've noticed with this shoe was running any sort of uphills, there was almost a little too much give in the Atom Knit 3.0. And it was like I started to lose that magic and oomph of the shoe as I started to go uphill. Like it wouldn't stay connected and locked down on my foot. Obviously come race day and most of our trainings, we're probably going to be running flats in these. And for our marathon, especially if we're trying to hit a PR, we're trying to find the flattest marathon. But that doesn't always happen, or a perfect run doesn't come without some uphills. So it is something to keep in mind. I definitely would love to see how this performs race day. And that's probably going to be the next time I'm going to wear this shoe. I don't think I'll wear it again before then. Maybe some training runs if leading up to a marathon or a half that I know I'm going to race. But it will be interesting to see how the shoe is going to perform come race day. So I know it seems like I kind of ripped into the shoe a little bit, or at least the upper. But the upper is still fantastic. And I think all in all, if you have a more narrow foot, you are going to love this upper. If you're like me, Hobbit feet fam, there might be better super shoes out there. It still accommodates the wider foot, but it's not like the 1 or 2s. I think the 2 was pretty on par with the 1s. I can't say for certain. I didn't run in the 2s, but it's definitely not like the 1s. So something to keep in mind. Moving on to the midsole, the beloved Zoom X Pebax foam, full length carbon plate, the AirPods, the huge selling point of this shoe, one of them, and what makes this shoe, in my personal opinion. I'll say right off the bat, I have almost no complaints about the midsole. It feels amazing. And again, going back to what I said in the beginning, if you've never ran an Alphafly, those first couple miles in this shoe are gonna feel incredible. It's gonna feel like nothing you've experienced before. I can almost promise that. However, it does not feel as pronounced as the previous Alphaflys, or at least the Alphafly 1. I almost feel like in this shoe, you have to run a little bit more. And I know that's weird to say, but hear me out. When I compare super shoes, when I compare the Vaporfly to the Adidas Pro 3, the Pro 3, to me is a true lock in your pace and just hit cruise control. And I feel like it's very consistent because it's got such an aggressive roll through. Whereas the Vaporfly is not as aggressive in that way. And it's more of like you're actually running rather than relying on that roll through. And I feel like with this shoe, it kind of is somewhere in the middle. And someone did say, I can't remember who, but they said that they felt like this version was a crossover between the Vaporfly 3 and the Alphafly 1 or 2. And I kind of agree with that. I think it's starting to cater to the more general population, kind of like Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 or the New Balance Fuel Cell 4, Elite 4. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't think it's either. I think at the end of the day, it's what works for you and your running style. Moving on to the outsole. I didn't have any major issues with the outsole. The only thing I am concerned about is the durability in the rubber and the heel. And also, I did take these out for a 7-mile threshold run, and it had rained a lot that morning, so the ground was still wet when I went for my run. This shoe had the worst squeak I have ever had in any running shoe. Thankfully, after a couple miles, I threw on my headphones, but my God, was it like horrendous. So something to keep in mind if you're on a rainy run or come race day, you're going to be running in the rain. This shoe was squeaking like crazy and it drove me insane. Is it a deal breaker? No. Is it annoying? Absolutely. All right, so I broke down the shoe into each of its parts, but now I want to kind of bring it back together to talk about how the shoe performed as a whole. And I'll say off the bat, the shoe is amazing. I know it seems like I picked it apart here and there, but I need to talk about the bad as much as I need to talk about the good. And overall, the shoe does perform well. I would recommend it. It will ultimately boil down to what type of runner you are, what type of ride you prefer, as with every shoe. I will say with this shoe, my normal perceived rate of effort for my normal just pace, my zone 2 pace, was about a minute faster in this shoe, which was really nice. And then at my marathon pace, and I'm not in marathon shape right now, but at that marathon pace with that perceived rate of effort, I noticed I was running about 15 to 20 seconds faster with this shoe. And even though I did have issues with the fit, mainly concerning the upper, the Adamant 3.0, overall on the runs or any run that I did run in this shoe, there was never a question of the overall comfort of this shoe. I never had to think about wow, my feet are killing me or this is going on. And the longest run I did do in this shoe was a 10-mile run, but I never had to question the comfort. But as of right now, I would recommend this shoe if price is not an issue, because it is that steep price point of $285, and you kind of can't get your hands on it right now. Not until that next drop happens, I believe, either next month or in April. But if you can get your hands on this shoe and price isn't an issue, I would absolutely recommend trying this out. And maybe this is your new marathon shoe. I know for me, it's either going to be a half or a full, and I'm going to have to race it and see how it performs come race day. So I hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown of the Nike Alphafly 3. Thank you for watching. Appreciate the love. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave it down below. I'll get back to you, and much love. Peace.